The federal marshal's voice cut through the morning air like a ship's horn. Calm, steady, no room for argument. Lysandra Blackthorne, you have the right to remain silent. By then, her $2 million yacht was boxed in by Coast Guard cutters. Flags snapped in the wind, boots thudded on metal decks, and Lysandra? She was losing her mind. Screaming about her constitutional rights, waving papers like they were holy scripture. But the thing about the law is no matter how loud you shout, it doesn't bend to tantrums. And here's the wild part. Just 6 hours earlier, this same woman had been standing on my dock, polished shoes clicking on the wood, wearing a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. She handed me this old leather folio filled with documents that looked like they'd been dug up from 1887. And with the straightest face, she told me I was trespassing on her island. She said I was part of her homeowners association. Claimed I was already behind on dues, 10 grand due immediately or she'd evict me from my own land. Imagine someone showing up to your door with fake papers, trying to snatch away everything you worked for. Now, here's the thing, she had no idea who she was talking to. To her, I was just some guy in his late 30s who bought an island for the view. Someone she thought would cave under the pressure of official-looking papers and a fancy title. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't there by accident. I was right where the federal government wanted me to be. My name's Decker Ruthel. 3 weeks ago, I bought Beacon Island. To her, I was just another mark. To the feds, I was bait. And I don't tell you this for drama. I tell you because if you've ever dealt with someone in power trying to strip away what's yours, you know exactly how this feels. Maybe it wasn't a yacht or forged deeds. Maybe it was a landlord with keys to your place. A boss who treated your paycheck like a leash. Or a system that told you where you could live, what you could own, and when you'd had enough. If you've lived that, you know survival takes more than courage. It takes patience. When I first set foot on Beacon, I knew it wasn't just a piece of land. The lighthouse stood tall and weathered, scarred by storms, but still shining. The grass bent in the wind like it was bowing but refusing to break. It reminded me of the neighborhood I grew up in back in Detroit. People there bent, but they never broke. My grandmother used to tell me, land holds memory, Decker, if you care for it. It'll care for you. She worked her whole life to buy a small piece of land, and she fought tooth and nail to keep it. Against banks, against speculators, against anyone who thought a black woman didn't deserve to own her own place. When I walked Beacon Shore for the first time, I swear I heard her voice in the wind. So yeah, when the feds gave me a chance to own this island, I didn't hesitate. But it wasn't just about owning it, it was about standing guard. About being the witness in plain sight while they closed in on predators like Lysandra. And she was the perfect example of the sickness they were chasing. Her family had made fortunes pulling the same trick over and over: fake paperwork, intimidation, finding people too tired or too scared to fight back. Families lost homes. Elders lost land. And it was all hidden under the respectable mask of property management. So when she stepped onto my dock that morning, calling herself chairwoman of the Beacon Shores HOA, I was ready. She said I was behind on dues $10,000. Told me I'd lose my island if I didn't pay up. She shoved those papers into my hands, fake seals and signatures, smiling like she already owned me. But I played along. I let my brow wrinkle, asked dumb questions, acted confused. I let her think she was winning. Because as she strutted back to her yacht, I couldn't stop thinking, how many people had she already done this to? How many widows, young families, or elders gave up their land just to get her off their back? How many swallowed the shame of losing, not realizing they'd been conned from the start? But me, I wasn't here to give up. I told her I needed time. She smirked, promised she'd be back in the morning for her money or my surrender papers. And then she was gone, crew grinning like hyenas behind her. The moment she left, I called it in. My handler's voice on the line was calm, steady. It's time. Units will be in place before sunrise. That night, the island felt heavier than usual. The wind pressed hard against the windows. The waves crashed loud against the cliffs. I sat at the kitchen table in the old lighthouse keeper's house, studying her so-called documents. Clever fakes, I'll admit, aged paper. Ink that looked hand-blotted. But fake is fake, and the Beacon Shores HOA. never existed. At dawn, I heard the low hum of Coast Guard engines before I saw them, cutters sliding into position like shadows. Lysandra's yacht came gliding toward my dock, her confidence as strong as the rising sun. She marched down, eyes sparkling like she already owned the place. "Mr. Russell," she said, "I trust you've had time to reconsider." I let her get halfway through her speech before the bullhorn split the harbor. Lysandra Blackthorne, step away from the dock. Her whole face twisted confusion, then rage. She turned on me, screaming, "This is illegal! He's violating my rights!" "You can't do this," but it was already over. The Coast Guard swarmed her yacht. The federal marshal read her rights while she shrieked. Her crew scattered like roaches in the light. The fake papers were seized, bagged, cataloged. And right there, on the same dock where she tried to strip away my dignity, hers was pulled apart instead. As her yacht was towed away, her voice echoed across the waves, curses, threats, promises of revenge. But the sea doesn't care for tantrums, and neither does the law. And me? I stood there watching the horizon, knowing this was only the beginning. Because this wasn't just about an island. This was about every person who has ever been told they don't belong on land they rightfully own. It was about justice. It was about dignity. And it was about making sure predators like her never take either again. When the Coast Guard cutters finally pulled her yacht out past the horizon, the whole island went quiet again. The only sound left was the gulls circling overhead and the water smacking the dock. I stood there with my half-cold coffee, just breathing it in. But here's the truth, there wasn't any victory dance. Not yet, because Lysandra getting hauled off was just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. She was loud, yeah, but she wasn't the brain behind it. People like her were the muscle. The real machine was bigger, built on forged deeds, fake HOAs, and land stolen one family at a time. And the job now was to drag all of that into the light. That night, when the island calmed down, I couldn't help but think about what land really means. Not the paperwork, not the taxes, what it means. My grandmother used to say, land holds memory. Decker, they'll try to take it because they know what it's worth. She knew firsthand. Back in the 1950s, a banker told her she'd done well for a colored woman just for trying to buy her own place. Imagine the weight of that. She never forgot it. I used to watch her at the kitchen table, bills laid out like battle plans, fighting to hold on to the little she had. That kind of fight doesn't die, it gets passed down. And when Lysandra showed up with her fake HOA, I knew I wasn't just standing for me. I was standing for my grandmother, for families like mine, for everyone whose names got erased out of records because someone richer decided they didn't belong. The feds understood that too. That's why they wanted me here. Not because I was the toughest, but because I knew what was at stake. After her arrest, everything shifted into the grind. Depositions, paperwork, courtrooms. They traced her scam across state lines, phony HOA boards, community charters older than the towns they claimed to govern, maps redrawn to steal property. It was fraud dressed up to look respectable, and the people who got hurt, the ones least able to fight back. I sat in hearings and listened to stories that broke me. An old couple in Florida who'd been paying dues for 15 years to an HOA that didn't exist. A single mom in Georgia forced out of her house after fake fines buried her in debt. Families who lost more than homes, they lost the pride of saying this land is ours. That's the real theft. Not just the money or the papers, the dignity. The right to plant your feet on your own porch and know nobody can take it from you. One afternoon, after a long day with the investigators, I walked the shoreline of Beacon. The waves rolled in, climbed the rocks, and slid back out again like they'd been doing forever. And it hit me, this wasn't just about shutting down a scam. It was about rewriting the story. No matter how slick the forgery, the truth always finds a way to rise. Justice is slow, but it moves. Months later, I watched Lysandra in court. She walked in wearing black like armor, chin up, cold voice. She claimed she was being persecuted, said it was political, said the government was out to silence her, but evidence has no patience for lies. Every fake seal, every bogus signature, every doctored check, they laid her empire bare. When the verdict came guilty on all counts, the room went so quiet you could hear the shuffle of papers. And for the first time, she didn't yell. She just sat there, stiff, pale, staring into the distance. Maybe that was the first real thing I'd ever seen from her. I stepped out of that courthouse into the sunlight, and I thought of my grandmother again. Standing on her porch, arms crossed, claiming her space in the world. Nobody could take that from her. That was dignity, and it's the same dignity these predators tried to rob. Beacon Island didn't make me rich. It didn't buy me fame. What it gave me was proof. Proof that justice, even when it limps and crawls, still works. Proof that liars and bullies eventually fall. Proof that land, when defended with truth, is more than just soil, its memory, its survival. And here's the part one keep close. When all the noise faded, I stayed. I stayed on the island. Nights here are long, but the lighthouse still works if you keep it tended. Sometimes I sit in that beam and watch it sweep across the dark water, reminding me that no matter how heavy the night gets, there's always a light saying, "You belong." Because belonging doesn't come from some HOA or even a deed. Belonging is carved out of the fight to hold your dignity, and that fight? It's older than any scam, stronger than any fraud. So if anyone ever tries to strip away what's yours, don't stay quiet. Their power only lasts as long as your silence. Stand up, push back. Because once dignity is gone, it can take generations to win it back. That's why I'm telling this. Not to scare you, not to brag, but because people need to know predators don't always look like predators. Sometimes they wear suits, sometimes they carry clipboards, but the hunger's the same. So tell me, drop your location in the comments. Do HOAs exist where you are? Or is this just an American disease, greed dressed up in fine print? Either way, maybe what happened here will keep someone else from losing their land, their home, their history. My name is Decker Ruffle. Beacon Island isn't just where I live, it's where I learned that justice, no matter how late, is still worth fighting for. Every evening, when the tide smashes against the rocks, I hear my grandmother's words. Land is memory. Decker, if you care for it, it'll care for you. And I'll keep guarding that truth. Same way the lighthouse guards the sea, until the storms pass, until the predators fade like shadows.